Cousin Billy would take me walking. Out through the backyard we go walking. Then he look into my eyes. Lord knows to my...
Hello everybody, welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Matt Dillhoney. Joining me this week, Russell Glasser.
Hi folks.
We are live. I think it actually ties in when he's talking about brainwashing at a young age. One of the reasons this question has come up is because there's a concern about whether or not people are indoctrinating their kids into their own religious beliefs, and is this something that actually happened to you?
I don't think so. I mean, as far as I can tell, I mean, you know, I would have to say it's certainly true that my parents were atheists and probably told me that there was no God. And look at me, here I am, not believing in God today.
Right.
So, in that sense, you could say that this is indoctrination. But on the other hand, any kind of specific indoctrination I might have gotten from my parents, I think, was deliberately diluted in a whole bunch of ways. Or, you know, some of it deliberately and some of it not so deliberately. Yeah, I mean, Christians will often come at us and say that we just have a religious faith just like theirs. We have a faith that there's no God, and they have a faith that there is God, and so they're on equal footing. And that's an easy kind of symmetry to draw, but you know, I don't feel like I was ever raised in the same environment where I get sent to some place and get told the same thing over and over again. I mean, it's not like when you're an atheist you can restrict yourself to having just atheist friends, although I guess the atheist community of Austin is one way of getting toward that. But
although, you know, I don't set that restriction on myself.
No, I mean,
and as a matter of fact,
right.
You know, as much as I enjoy doing things with the ACA and participate, you know, as much as I can, I have plenty of friends around the town who follow all kinds of religious beliefs. And the good thing is that many of them are genuine friends. We get along. We agree on some things. We disagree on some other things. We laugh about some of the things that we disagree about, and we generally have fun. But this isn't. I don't go after them and try and take away their religion. We don't tend to have arguments and discussions about religion, and for the most part,
you know, I argue with people who are religious, but only if it comes up in conversation. I mean, for instance, I actually want to bring up my best friend for a second, which isn't something I thought of when I was preparing for the show today. But when I was 10, I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and met a kid my own age just when I was driving up. He was right there next door. Shout out, hey Gil. I don't think he listens to the show. But his parents found out that I was an atheist, and they didn't want him to play with me for a while. And he did anyway. But I don't remember having serious discussions with him about atheism until just a couple of years ago, and it turns out that I mean, you know, even though he is good friends with both me and my dad, who's the most outspoken atheist ever, I think we had small conversations about it, but he said that he was having a sort of a crisis of faith recently, and I didn't shy away from needling him about it, you know, saying, well, you know, here's what I think. And I think he's moved more away from belief. But I want to say that I didn't corrupt him the way his parents were afraid I would when we were kids. In fact, when we were kids, he actually egged me on to shoplift something. And I'll own up to it right now. I pocketed some gum, and I felt terrible about it, and that's the only shoplifting I've done in my life. And it was because of my Catholic friend. So, hey again, he's grown up into a fine, upstanding citizen. But yeah, I would have to say that you do get a lot of paranoia about what the atheist is going to do. A lot of assumption that they're going to indoctrinate you into whatever weird, crazy atheist beliefs you have, which is kind of a natural assumption considering that's what they would do.
Well, I think in part people will complain, well, it's wrong to put that off on their religion, and I agree. Let's say the shoplifting incident had nothing at all to do with who was Catholic.
I'm not blaming it on his Catholicism.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm getting to, is that instead there is a comment to be made about these people who have deluded themselves into thinking that a particular religious belief is likely to make you more moral or more ethical. The fact of the matter is that by and large, whatever your religious belief is, kids tend to do a lot of the same stuff everywhere, and that includes, breaking stuff, lying, being mean to the other kids, shoplifting, and eventually, as they get into their teens, owning up to their hormones and having sex. Where the problem that I think with religion comes in is in how it chooses to deal with those things. First of all, I mean, there's some denial going on. I'm sorry, but if you happen to think that, for example, stripping is immoral, or doing adult films is immoral, then I wonder why so many of the girls that I've seen have crosses on their neck. I mean, don't blame all of the problems in the world on people who don't believe, or a lack of morality that's caused by disbelief. The fact is that people are generally moral and immoral at the same rates across the board. And if anything, and I don't claim this as a guaranteed fact, but if anything, there's an impetus for atheists to be more morally correct in some ways. Now, I disregard the notion of sin, and I don't for a moment feel guilty about my thoughts, that thoughts could possibly be a crime, or that I could offend some creator of the universe by doubting him, or thinking that perhaps he doesn't exist. I also disregard a lot of other things that different religions say are sins, and I tend to look at it as, what do you do that harms other people, as being the main thing.
Right.
But even within the scope of a kind of Christian-based society and the morals that we do there, I think you'll find that there's been some discussion about whether or not atheists are underrepresented in prison. I don't find those statistics particularly fair. But what I will say is, this is something Chris and I talked about the other day.
Yeah.
That there's a good reason for atheists to actually be more moral. For example, I tend not to flip people off going down the highway when they've cut me off and pissed me off, because I'm an actual driving advertisement for atheism. So I take extra steps to try and make sure that I'm the best representative I can be.
Well, Christians would probably say the same thing. They have to show the faith is. I mean, they have to. Oh, I don't know the lingo, but they say something just like that, where they want to be good representatives of the faith.
And I think that in general, most of them probably do. But what we're really saying in both cases is that we are actively working against our own nature in order to represent ourselves in a positive way to other people. What I think we need to start recognizing is, what exactly is our nature? When should we work in opposition to it? When should we embrace it and finally say, you know what, that's not a bad thing. They're not actually hurting anybody.